Really?
Yeah, that's wild.
So at the beginning, you'll definitely probably have to edit this, of course.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ariella Brown. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I serve as the Associate Director for Gender Equity Programs. I'm also the Sexual Offense Prevention Policy and Title IX Coordinator here at Antioch College.
One of you let me know.
And I'm Cadet Brockington, he, him, his. I'm a third-year Antioch College student studying biomedical anthropology and American jurisprudence.
Welcome. So a few housekeeping rules before we get started with our presentation today. We include a discussion on topics that include various forms of intimate partner violence, such as dating violence, domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. We understand that these may cause a variety of emotions, so make sure that you are prioritizing self-care by taking breaks as needed. Feel free to ask questions, and for the sake of anonymity, you can email Cadet referencing questions on gender, and you can feel free to contact me for any questions regarding Title IX and the Sexual Offense Prevention Policy. Please also be aware that you all are responsible student leaders. As well, there are employees that serve as responsible employees. So please be mindful of any comments, and if there's information shared today that could be a possible violation of the sexual misconduct and discrimination policy, my office may be contacted and will follow up with all comments and investigate possible concerns. Today we're going to talk about what is gender. We're going to talk about pronouns, affirmative consent, the sexual offense prevention policy, Title IX, how to report, resources, and confidentiality. So what is gender? Gender is becoming comfortable with not knowing anything. Gender and queer theory are about exploration. Gender refers to the roles, behaviors, activities, attributes, and opportunities that any society considers appropriate. Gender interacts with, but is different from, the binary categories of biological sex.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct, but it's... Let's unpack this whole gender conversation. You use a device or a character called the genderbread man.
Person.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. The genderbread person.
It's okay. I found it really helpful to think about gender in a few different distinct categories. Gender identity, how you define your gender and how you see yourself. Gender expression, the different ways that we present or perform gender through our actions, our dress, and our demeanor. And biological sex or anatomical sex, the physical characteristics that make up our body that in many people's minds equal gender, but don't.
So gender expression is the way you present yourself to the world. So you could be talking about the way you dress.
Yeah.
The way you comb your hair.
Or don't.
Or use product.
Yeah.
So everything kind of as it relates to the outside world.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. That's a perfect way of thinking about it. So even just, okay, so this is funny. The way that I'm sitting right now is a very feminine expression of sitting, because like how we sit is gendered, right?
Meanwhile, I'm kind of man-spreading.
Yeah, you're man-spreading. You're not even giving me enough room to properly man-spread over here. This is the man cross, the masculine way of crossing a leg. This is just uncomfortable for me. Feels like so much.
It feels good to me.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's like yoga. Okay, now let's do the girl.
Okay.
So gender is different than sexual orientation.
Yeah.
But a lot of people get them confused.
Yeah. Gender is who you go to bed as. Sexual orientation is who you go to bed with. So if you haven't heard that one's important.
So let's talk about penises and vaginas, shall we?
Yeah, we might as well.
Let's just go right there.
If you haven't already talked about penises and vaginas, we need to talk about penises and vaginas, because that's what everybody always thinks. Like, immediately, as soon as you say gender, anybody who's walking by right now who's hearing us say the word gender, the first thing that's popping into their mind is external genitalia. They're thinking about penises and vaginas.
So, for the purpose of our discussion, the bottom line is your external genitalia does not dictate your gender.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Can you rewind that? The bottom line is your external genitalia does not dictate your gender.
Yeah. I mean, that I couldn't have said it better.
Cool. So expanding on that concept, you have the concepts of gender identity and gender expression, not to be conflated. So with gender identity, you have this lived experience that a person feels internally, or which gender they define, or even it could be non-binary and a lack of gender. So gender identity is expressed every day through gender expression. It can be expressed in work, while shopping, or accessing other services, in your housing environment, or in a broader sense of community. And that came from the Ontario Commission of Human Rights. So gender expression, coupled with identity and linguistics, opens to the use of personal pronouns. Personal pronouns are gender reifying. Remember, are to elaborate kind of our sense of like our concrete sense of gender, or reinforce our gender sense, since it's important to take time. I'm sorry. So it's important to take time to learn and remember pronouns as not to misgender anyone. Okay, so gender pronouns. So as native speakers of a language, we have been conditioned to think about gender pronouns. So languages are normally gendered. If you speak a Germanic language or a Romance language, you use like gender most of the time. It's something that you don't think about in your day-to-day speech. Gendered language has an impact on everyone's lives, but especially those of marginalized populations, such as trans folks, or people who live outside the gender binary. In order to affirm someone's gender identity and lived experience, it's important to check in and ask others about pronouns. I know at first this can be a little bit iffy, but just try to normalize it. And if you don't remember someone's pronouns, do not guess, simply ask. This kind of help builds the sense of community that we want at Antioch, especially with not having the same intersectionality as other people.
Thank you so much today. That's a great way of explaining that concept, and to also be mindful that when you are meeting with someone or speaking with them and you want to introduce yourself to them, it's always great to say, hi, my name is, and my pronouns are, and that will ensure that you are being inclusive in your language, to really speak to someone, to let them understand that you are being inclusive and being respectful of everyone in the entire community.
Yeah, thank you. So here we have a chart of gender pronouns. Sometimes in speaking about gender pronouns, I find it easier to think about the linguistic measures or the grammar that we go through. So here, just a broad overview, you have the subject, object, possessive, and reflexive sense. But you also see on the left-hand corner, you have first person, second person, third person, and traditionally what we think of masculine pronouns, feminine pronouns, or plural pronouns. This is not an extensive or exhaustive list. There are numerous pronouns that people have used in English, including like the zir and the vir, but this is just a good starting guide.
Great. So now we're going to delve further into gender expression through a video.
I go by
by she, her, hers pronouns. That's just how it's been for me.
My pronoun is he, and I present as a he. Some trans people might look like me and present as a she.
Recently, I've come across they, and I like they. So you can refer to me either as she or they.
I like to be referred to as many things. It's really about what sort of feels good to our ears when we hear it.
Pronouns are important because they indicate a degree of respect. Who doesn't want to be respected?
For a long time, a lot of people have felt like that they don't fit into the mold of primarily he or primarily she, or maybe they feel they're a blend of both and that there's not really a word for that.
I found out about gender non-specific pronouns, Z and here, and I thought that was funny. That makes people trip up, because really, technically, I'm not a she. I'm not a he either.
There are some situations where we really put way too much stock into whether or not somebody is a man or a woman. There's a lot of situations that we just don't need to necessarily have gendered language. If you're unsure about somebody's pronoun, pull them aside and ask, hey, what are your pronouns?
It's not even preferred pronoun because it is their pronoun.
So some people go by he, some people go by she, some people actually use the pronoun they.
You can avoid mistakes by just saying them, theirs, they.
Their gender is still valid regardless of whether or not you understand it.
Misgendering a person by using an incorrect pronoun is an act of disrespect.
Everybody else in the world out there can say I am and they identify themselves and everybody believes them. But when I say I am, I don't know why people just don't believe us.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the sexual offense prevention policy in Title IX and why this is important.
Team versus team. That's as good as it gets. Oh man, I've never had more fun in my whole life. Daddy's had a bear. I'm gonna go to another one there. Hey. Kiss your card? No, Lamorne, stop doing magic. You're not good at it. Guys! Oh, dude! There's a bear in your other room here. What? Oh, that's just the big, angry, hungry bear. Just pretend it's not there. Oh, really? And it'll just go away? What are you talking about? No, I don't think it's going anywhere, but I don't know what to do about it, so I just ignore it. So it's not dangerous, right? Define dangerous. It's a bear. But, it's not going to eat all of us. It only eats like 1 in 5. 1 in 5? I said only 1 in 5, so we're fine. That's a lot, man. That means one of us is going to be eaten. Statistically. That doesn't mean one of us. It means 1 in 5 people get eaten. Do something about this, man. Hey, what do you want me to do about it? You guys know the old saying, bears will be bears. That's not a saying. Lamorne, a bear will be a bear. So you can't just blame the bear. Not when it's attacking 20% of the people who come here. 20%? I said 1 in 5. Yes, that's 20%. No, it isn't. It's 1 in 5, you math nerd. Let's pile on this guy. Dude, you gotta get rid of this thing. Or at least warn us that there is a bear in the other room, man. We gotta look out for each other. What are you doing? Hey, what happens between you guys and the bear is none of my business. Wait, how is this none of your business, man? 1 in 5 people are gonna get attacked by this bear. You're overreacting. The bear is not going to eat all of us. It'll be less than a quarter of us. None of us should die. It affects us all, Jake. 1 in 5. How can your doorstep so important? I can protect your pride. 1 in 5. The majority is fine. I don't want to deal with this problem.
So let's unpack that for a second. The last slide said 1 in 5 women will experience an attempted rape within their 4-year college career. There's also a statistic that says 1 in 14 men will experience attempted rape or sexual assault in their college career. What we know is this happens in every community. And here at Antioch College, we are one community. And it is important to understand that if you see something, you should say something. If one of your friends is being treated unfairly, more than likely you should figure out a way to help them. So this happens in every community. No one is excluded from forms of intimate partner violence, whether that is directly experiencing it or indirectly by knowing a family member, a friend, an associate. Additionally, 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men, and 1 in 2 trans and non-binary people will experience some form of abuse in their lifetime. 1 in 6 women and 1 in 19 men at some point in their lives become victims of stalking. So again, this happens in every community. So let's talk about the sexual offense prevention policy. So by now you have heard of the SOPP, which is Antioch College's formal attempt of ending sexual violence and sexual harassment while fostering a campus culture of positive consensual sexuality. The SOPP is really ingrained in the Antioch community because it started here when a group of women came together and began a campaign to promote a culture free of sexual violence at Antioch College. They knew that one sexual assault was one too many. So I'm going to move on to playing one clip that really resonates with the entire community because it is rooted in the activism that Antioch College was really founded on.
Well, if Antioch College has its way, campus smooching will involve so many questions and answers, you might want to bring your lawyer along. These are the rules.
I don't think the sexual offense policy was anti-sex. I loved sex then and I love sex now. I had a problem, and I still have a problem, with people feeling like they can't slow down enough to figure out what the other person is really feeling.
Hashtag Me Too.
Me too.
Person of the year is the hashtag Me Too movement.
The same conflicts that we had in our discussions in the early 1990s at Antioch College are happening now.
What is misconduct and what isn't? Is it the job of men to now decide when women are capable of consent?
We did this 25 years ago. It's just crazy to me that it's still an issue.
As it reaches the bedroom, as it reaches this male-female coming together, women are saying what?
Women are saying us to, I see consent as a human issue. If from, the point you meet somebody, you're not seeing them as a person, that's a problem.
The difference is not necessarily that we are where we want to be. The difference is that people are talking about it now. That's the difference.
Consent. That's a tough one, isn't it?
Non-verbal, it's very tricky. I think you have to be verbal.
All of these questions that we were talking about at Antioch in our so-called bubble have now become dinner table conversation.
We're going to talk to you all about sexual health and SOPP.
This is actually simple. If someone doesn't want to have sex with you, don't have sex with them.
So in 1991, a group of women of Antioch began a campaign to promote a culture free of sexual violence at Antioch.
This was Antioch in the 90s.
Antioch has a history of being a fairly radical place. It was really pretty wild, very small.
When I came That fall, I look out, and there are two people dancing around in the rain naked. I'm like, where in the world did my mother leave me that people dance around in the rain naked?
The campus foments this energy to make changes, to better our society, and always has had a safe feeling about it.
Antioch has this openness, and I like that. And then there was finding out that 2 women had been raped on the campus.
So we decided that we should talk to other women on campus, and so we called a meeting.
And I said, I'm going to that meeting. I need to get a napkin.
There were so many women in the room that night. There weren't enough chairs for them. We had hit a nerve. At Antioch, we were playing with empowerment. We were pretending we were empowered. I know I was. So when we discovered that there was a rape on campus, we played with saying exactly what we wanted, which was that. We decided to draft a list of demands. We wanted people to understand that breaking someone's consent in even the smallest of ways was connected to the most violent of assaults. But it didn't take long for us to figure out that we had to define consent.
How do you have sex at Antioch College? Very carefully. You have to ask permission before each and every action, from smooching to you know what.
At the time, that was considered outrageous because it de-sexes the whole thing.
Political correctness and campus feminism run amok.
Sex is supposed to be mysterious and a little dangerous.
So we've got radio and TV spots, the Sanford, Florida Herald, the Daily Times Call in Longmont, Colorado.
This went viral before going viral was even a thing.
Is how students get from first base to second base really any of Antioch College's business?
This idea of women as asexual, things like the Antioch rules.
Now have to regulate romance in the interest of protecting women.
A lot of erectile difficulties.
We were the laughing stock. Ridiculous. I was standing in our bookstore when someone from SNL called and they said, can we get one of your football jerseys? And we laughed. We don't have a football team. The joke was on us.
Live from Antioch College in Antioch, Ohio, it's time to play.
The idea that we were involved in some anti-sex crusade was so laughable.
May I kiss you on the mouth?
Yes, I would like you to kiss me on the mouth.
Antioch was a very sex-positive culture.
Sexual intimacy by feeling your buttocks?
Yes, you have my permission.
We wanted to have as much of a sexual cornucopia as we wanted, but we wanted to be asked if we wanted it. That's it. I was devastated.
Frustration, anger, disappointment.
I was so embarrassed and I felt humiliated. I ended up leaving school. I quit.
Hello. I think that SNL talked about SOPP in 1995, which is when I was born. 93, then I wasn't born. I wasn't even a twinkle in my mother's eye yet when they did that.
We're dancing on the dance floor.
Going into Antioch, I had only heard about SOPP through that skit. All I could think of was, I'm going to the school that got made fun of.
Anybody think of a time where there was a movie that actually showed affirmative consent? Anybody see Frozen? At the end of Frozen, when that dude is like, can I kiss you?
May I? We me? I mean, may we? Wait, what?
We may.
It's like the first time in a Disney movie that somebody asks for consent.
The SOPP is Antioch's formal attempt at ending sexual violence while fostering a campus culture of positive consensual sexuality.
A little bit more information.
It seems like it's such a big part of the way of thinking now.
But if I cook for you now, will you expect me to cook for you later? And if I do cook for you later, will you expect me to cook for you all the time?
I want to cook for you, but don't you think my cooking sucks?
I want to cook for you, but can we talk about it before I start cooking?
I feel like it's good that this was here to like give people permission to talk about this.
In high school relationships, it's like a game. Like you have to swoon a girl and make her. You have to. It feels like there's a lot of gray area when it comes to one's first experience with sexual intimacy. But with this, it's so much easier to become intimate with someone if you know exactly where they're at and where you're at yourself, using verbal consent.
It's just like more of a worldwide thing that we can talk about things now. And with social media, that has just exploded. Somebody can say, hey, that happened to me, and I didn't realize that's what that was. You know, I didn't realize that that counts as sexual assault.
Does it mean that women are empowered enough now to say, not anymore?
Well, this is just the start, and I've been saying from the beginning that it's not just a moment, it's a movement.
Me too. Me too. I have been sexually harassed. We have to support each other and stand together and say, that's it. We're done. No more.
Do I feel vindicated? Like you all finally caught up to us? No, I'm glad.
At the core of this whole conversation is a question of what does it mean to be heard, and how is a person supposed to get themselves heard?
When you are bare with somebody else, like alone, and this is the most intimate side of you, and you ask somebody if they're okay, I think that that is incredible. It shouldn't feel like a novel idea, but it is.
Ariella?